Hello, welcome to A Course of Love. This review is of Chapter 7 in the second treatise, and the belief that we're looking at is giving and receiving is one. What a foundational belief this is for what we are becoming, what we are remembering is more accurate. So he starts with verse 1. We're talking about the idea of dependency. So one of your greatest fears is thus a condition that causes you to be dependent or to rely on others. If you check within yourself, I'm sure you'll find that that's true, especially in America. We're the great independent people. And the reason why we're afraid of that is because of the way we see others. We see them as unknown. We don't know what they're going to do. We don't know them completely. We see them as beyond your control. You see them as being able to mess up your day if they say something or do something that's harmful, hurtful to you, or they can even mess up your life. They may not be able to return your love. They might have hang-ups that keep them from that, and they may hurt you. They may pretend to do that and deceive you or whatever. And they may withhold things you want from them. So other people having this kind of power over us and us not being able to control any of it is not something we get excited about. And therefore we fear both loved ones and strangers. Loved ones because they have so much power over us, and strangers because they're so unknown. So that's the situation we find ourselves in. In fact, in verse 2, he reminds us dependency is not consistent with your notions of a healthy self. What then is the alternative? This is a great question for us because we don't want to be dependent on others. We know codependence is not a healthy situation. But independence doesn't satisfy us entirely either, because we're actually meant to be in relationship. So it puts us in this state of, how do I do this in a way that's healthy and safe for me? And the answer to that is giving and receiving as one is how you do this dependence dance. So the first thing we do is replace the idea of others, like I'm over here and you're over there and we're separate from each other, we're other, with the idea of relationship. So instead of putting the emphasis on me here, you there, now we switch our focus to what's between us? What's the energy between us? And we do that in all of our relationships with people, in all our interactions. You see others as separate from you. In relationship, you're not separate, but joined in the relationship that exists between you. So you look for what it is that actually joins you, what that energy is. And then the second thing is that the relationship is based on trust. So you have to ask yourself, how can I trust other people? I mean, we went through in the previous screen all the reasons why we can't trust other people. So now we're being told to trust other people. But we're also being told to look at what's the source of your desire to control others and the source of your desire to control your fear. The source of that is the ego. It's the ego that's trying to protect itself. It's not your true self. It's not your essential self. So when we come into relationship from this place of being based on trust, we trust that the other person is going to do whatever they need to do. And we're going to give them the space and the freedom to do that and be that. We don't need to control them. We don't need to control the relationship. We don't need to control our fear. We just need to be present. We just need to allow it to be whatever it is and to turn our focus to the relationship that exists between us. I chose this image to share. I'm actually in this image. That's me in the red hat. Because when I thought of an image that would represent giving and receiving as one, this popped into my mind, because that's my musical partner, Eric, with the guitar, and me. And we go to an Alzheimer's unit and play music for them. And when I first was asked to go, I thought, yes, I would go, to be a good person and to contribute and to bring light to their lives as some music and laughter. And boy, it didn't take but 30 seconds to discover that I was receiving so much more than I was giving. And these dear and wonderful people who light up, it becomes this love fest between us, where the energy that's created in our relationship is so sweet and so strong that other people come just to be a part of the energy. And it to me, it was a perfect example of giving and receiving as one, because I went thinking I was going to give, and so did Eric, and we end up actually receiving so much as we're giving. It's a wonderful balance. So we'll turn then to verse 6. It, and it's referring to the ego, will work diligently to convince you that any course that tries to take away your independence should be resisted. As long as you continue to listen to your ego, you will not understand giving and receiving as one, and you will not believe in it. So it becomes really essential here that we recognize the voice of the ego. The ego is going to tell you, oh no, don't you get dependent on anybody. And when you recognize that voice, then understand that that needs to be dropped, and you need to see what's really true. And if we look really on the reasons why we don't trust the other person, it's because they're not meeting our expectations, because they're not giving us what we want from them. And which part of us wants that? Which part of us has expectations? The ego again. So really, the ego has been using this idea of other as a tool to feed itself and perpetuate itself. And in order for us to really understand relationship and to really understand our interdependency, so we've got a third thing here. It's just not independent and dependent. It's interdependent. If there's only one of us, of course we're interdependent. And in order for us to really get that and live that, then we have to recognize which voice is the ego's and just drop that voice. Realize and remember it's not true, it's not valid, and it's not serving us. He tells us this may be hard to integrate. In your previous patterns, you take offense when others don't meet your expectations. You will be tempted to withhold and to protect yourself. And of course, this is the work. Because as we're doing this, no matter who you are, these temptations are going to arise when somebody in your life doesn't meet your expectations. And there's going to be a temptation to do something about that, whether that's self-protection or it's lashing out. The ego is going to want some kind of recourse. So that's the real juice for us in our work, to really pay attention. When we want to withhold and we want to protect ourselves, it's pointing to something in our pattern that's still holding on, that's inviting us to release it. So those are really good opportunities to, instead of doing our habitual thing of hiding and running, to turn and face and say, okay, what's going on here? Why am I holding on in this particular area? Verse 8, Is it not clear how important it is to living in peace that this pattern be broken? And really, how's that been working for you so far? Will you live in peace only until some other breaks your peace? Only until some circumstance beyond your control brings an unexpected conflict your way? Control has no place in relationship. Let me say that again. Control has no place in relationship. True relationship, without expectations or demands, is the only way to real interaction and your only way to affect change. Boy, we really do want to control. And we do it because we want to stay safe. But the way of looking at this that he's pointing to here is that that pattern has not been working for us. The only real interaction we can have is to stop trying to control each other. You will still want to change things in your life because life isn't static. What does that mean? That means it's not like you won't want to move to a new place or feel like you want to start a new project or a new job or a new relationship. You'll still want to change things because you're alive and life isn't static. So those things are going to come up from within. Hopefully it's your heart that's going to be leading the way on that. But the old patterns of forcing change won't work anymore. Not that they ever worked well, but we tried. Verse 12. To proceed into each relationship as who you truly are is to bring everlasting change to each and every relationship, and thus to all. That's a pretty big promise, isn't it? But when you think about it, if you go into every relationship you have, completely dropping the desire to control it in any way, and you go in from your heart with an open heart, not asking for the other person to meet your demands or expectations, but to just completely be yourself and see what's there in this minute, you can see that every relationship could change. Relationship with parents, with children, with partners, with friends, with people at the grocery store. Every relationship that we have, if we bring into this space of no control and complete acceptance of the other and ourselves, we will be interdependent and life will be sweet. Life is sweet. Take the present tense. So this is not about doing good works. This is about being who you are and seeing the truth rather than the illusion that surrounds you. You cannot affect change without having affected change within. You cannot be independent and still be of service. You will not accept giving and receiving as one if you feel able only to give, or as if others have nothing you would receive. So what does that mean? How many of us see ourselves as good people, people who will help out others, people who are moral? And we're sure we can give, we're happy to give to some degree. But if you can only give and you can't receive, that you stop the flow. And if we act as if others don't have anything we would receive, oh, I can only receive from a certain type of person, or a person who meets me at this level or does this or that, you can't accept giving and receiving as one if you do that. But you do need relationship. All beings do, and this is the big quandary that we have found ourselves in so far. We know we need relationship, but we want to be safe and we want to be independent. So it's important to recognize that we do all need relationship. Verse 14 tells us, the only thing that keeps you in this new pattern from being needy and dependent in an unhealthy way is that you believe in giving and receiving as one. You believe, in other words, that your needs will be provided for, thus ceasing to be needs. To come to believe that your needs are provided for by a creator and a creation that includes all others is to believe in giving and receiving being one in truth. So I used this image of Christopher Reeve, who is the man on the left. The woman on the right is another, I'm sorry that her name does not come to mind right now, but they were advocates together. I don't know if you heard the information that Christopher Reeve in his interviews revealed that was so moving and such a wonderful example of giving and receiving as one. Because when he first started his career, of course, he had it all. He was Superman, literally. Handsome, talented, on his way up, beautiful wife and family, and he had it all. And yet, he always told people, after he was paralyzed, when he was in his chair and making speeches and living his life from the new place, that he was much happier after his accident on that horse that paralyzed him than he had been before. Why is that? Why would a man be happier paralyzed than he was when he had it all? And the answer is he learned that giving and receiving are one in truth. He learned that relationship was where it was at. And it took for him this horrible, well, I don't know, I'm not going to call it horrible, this extreme accident for him to have this recognition. And for him to come to the place where, as if he might have something to receive from all others, and he might have something to give from all others. The interdependency. If ever there was an excuse for someone to become completely dependent, it would be he. But he discovered interdependency, and it brought him happiness beyond what he ever experienced when his body functioned in a normal way. So as we look again at verse 14, this belief of giving and receiving as one is essential for us to accept in order to have that healthy interdependency. And how do we get that? You believe that your needs will be provided for. So that in every moment, whatever is showing up, you believe is actually what you need. How do I know that? Because it's here. So it's really about trusting the process, trusting the flow, recognizing that the universe, or God, the one, is giving me exactly what I need right now. Which means that my needs are met and they are no longer needs. And then, of course, we extend that to that same belief that others are receiving exactly what they need in this moment. So it's not our job to fix them or get anything from them or give them anything because they're suffering. Whatever it is, it's not our job. They are getting exactly what they need as well. So now it becomes a matter of we get to just play together. Ha-ha! There is a constant, ongoing exchange between you and the world, during which your needs are constantly being met. Living in this way requires trust. Boy, once you make the decision to accept this and live from here, then the whole world opens up. Because you recognize that you can't really be harmed. Because the power that is is completely taking care of you and has been all along. Verse 16, you thus will often say you trust when you're looking for a specific outcome. Real trust is not a trust that waits and hopes, but a trust that acts from who you truly are. Real trust requires the discipline of being who you are in every circumstance and in every relationship. So we know that that's true. Well, I mean, that's what the old form of prayer was about. I trust that I will heal. I trust that I'll be well. So we're looking for a specific outcome. I trust I'm going to find a house to buy. I trust I'm going to find a partner. We're looking for a specific outcome. But real trust acts from who I am in this moment, and that's it, and believes and embodies the idea that this is exactly what I need. And we do that in every circumstance and every relationship. Because when we don't trust, we hide our thoughts and feelings. We deny thoughts and feelings that we think are negative or bad. And we keep our opinions private in order to not appear judgmental. But be careful, because denial of what is does not support the truth of who you are in each moment. So, there comes this recognition of what is comes first, and then acceptance of what is. And sometimes we move to communication of what is, depending on what our heart is calling for. Verse 19, the discipline, and notice that word because it does take discipline, required to be who you are, is a discipline that requires trust in self and honesty in relationships. And this is a whole new shift in relationships. You have to trust that you can get to your own truth, and that it's okay to tell that truth. It's okay to recognize it and to be honest about it with the person that you're with. To just always be telling the truth. And it takes us to a whole new level of relationship. You'll be so glad you did. So, how does this work in real life? Well, one, it isn't necessary to express every thought and feeling. So, if you're feeling troubled with your partner one day, it doesn't mean that every time a little wave of something comes across your screen that you need to get honest and express it with them. But you do this. You bring the issue to the heart. You don't bring it to the mind or the ego. You bring it to the heart. I call it dropping down to the heart. And the heart will separate truth from illusion. So if I'm feeling really combative one morning, instead of going to my partner and saying, I'm really angry with you today, or I don't want to be around you today, before that ever happens, I drop to the heart. What's happening here? What does the heart want to do? And the heart might say, well, I want to go back to bed. Or it might say, you need some alone time. Or it might say, we need to talk about this. So you don't just automatically know. You go to the heart, not the mind, and find out what's happening there. And then if you get the, I need to talk about this, then you express your true self in that moment. This is how I'm feeling now. This is coming up for me. The process of dropping to the heart is, and this he says in the verse, this is the only means we have of replacing the old patterns of reactivity. This is it. There aren't 12 things you can do to replace your reactivity. This is the only means we have. is learning to not respond automatically from what the mind tells us, but to make it a habit to drop to the heart and find out what's true. And I really like to ask myself that exact question. What's true here? What's true? Right now, in this moment, what's true? Verse 20, the recognition that giving and receiving occur as one is a precondition for your recognition of the state of unity. It is accepted that giving and receiving occur in unison, thus further collapsing the need for time. So it's not like I give you $1 this week and you give me $1 a month from now. But giving and receiving happen simultaneously. So time is not necessary. As you experience giving and receiving being one in truth, your belief will become true conviction. Your ability to recognize giving and receiving as one becomes simply an aspect of your identity and accept it as the nature of who you are in truth. So what he's telling us here is the more you do this, and at first you have to remember, okay, drop to the heart. Don't let the ego rule. Don't let the mind rule. Drop to the heart. What does the heart say? Let it separate from illusion. And then let me find out. Let me express from there. We have to do that over and over. And as we do it and we watch it work, we see that when we do that and we're telling the truth of our experience and not blaming or trying to control, but just saying this is what's happening for me right now, and we watch our relationships change, and we watch our interactions with people become so sweet and so dear and so real, then now that belief becomes your true conviction. You don't want to respond to people in any other way because you have seen firsthand what works. And now that becomes a part of your identity, because now you almost automatically drop to the heart. When something comes up that pinches or doesn't feel right, you drop to the heart and go, okay, what's true now? And now you're coming closer and closer to who you truly are and living as the Christ. Thank you. I know that was a long review. So important. And I hope that you were able to gain something from it. And the unlearning and the beauty just goes on and on. So please stick with me and join me in chapter 8.